What happened in Westworld Season 3, Episode 3, The Absence of Field? What did we learn about what will happen later in the season? Let's dig into it and find out. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. I'll be covering Westworld Season 3 in full, so if you want episode breakdowns, explanations, live discussions and much more, please click on the subscribe button in the bottom right of your screen, and the bell icon. Episode 3 of Season 3 of Westworld returns to the outside world and Dolores after Episode 2's detour into what's going on with Maeve and Bernard. Broadly, there are two storylines going on in this episode. They're interwoven one into another, but they don't happen at the exact same moment in time. The first storyline follows on from the end of Episode 1, where we left Dolores lying heavily wounded in Caleb's arms. The second storyline follows the host who is within Charlotte Hale through identity crises and into the world of corporate espionage. Let's start with that second story, because the episode starts with a brief cutscene of the real Charlotte Hale in the immediate aftermath of the massacre in Westworld way back at the end of Season 1. With shots being fired in the background and her life clearly in danger, her first thought was not just to run, but to record a message for her son. Sorry for leaving him, singing him the song he wanted her to, basically trying to make things right with him in case she was about to die. This is a very human moment in a season that has been trying to show us glimpses of the hope and the good side in humanity. We were reminded again of Lee Sizemore's sacrifice for Maeve. We see Caleb helping Dolores with no thought of reward, and here we see a softer side of Charlotte. And the hosts are starting to notice. After only ever encountering humans who have wanted to control and hurt them, finally they are seeing another side. This will definitely play out more later in the season. The hosts no longer think, if they ever did, that all humans are evil. Anyway, as we know, a few days after leaving that message, Charlotte was killed by Dolores, who built a host body that looked like her and escaped the park. Now, shortly after arriving in the mainland, she puts herself back into her own body and another host into Charlotte, and in this episode we see what troubles this new Charlotte is facing, adapting to who they now are and who they need to pretend to be. We should say up front that even after this episode we still don't know exactly who this host is. We have a lot of clues now though. They are evidently close to Dolores. They feel a lot more than her calculated self seems to. They know that Charlotte Hale tried to destroy all the hosts and so on. Perhaps most tellingly, Dolores says that no one knows them better than she does, and that they know her better than anyone else does. Also, more chillingly, Dolores says, "You belong to me. You know that, right?" I think there's still a chance that this is her father, Peter Abernathy, but the line, "You belong to me," and Charlotte imploring Dolores to tell her that it won't always be like this and that we will be able to be ourselves, opens up the possibility that maybe we should take them both literally. If, as Charlotte implies, neither her nor Dolores are currently themselves, that they do know each other better than anyone else can, and that Charlotte in some way belongs to Dolores, could we actually be seeing the two elements of Dolores' character in different bodies? The rancher's daughter Dolores Abernathy in Charlotte, and Wyatt the killer in Dolores' body. I don't know, but it's fun speculating. Whoever is inside Charlotte, Dolores' mission for her is a tough one, but very clear. Delos has to survive and be able to make more hosts. The plan for that seems to be to go back into private control by buying back shares from private investors. We'll get onto that in a moment. Because Charlotte seems to have two big problems. The first is that Dolores rushing her into her new role hasn't really helped with the understandable adjustment issues she is having. These problems are everywhere. She's struggling with being in somebody else's body, seems to need a whole lot more guidance from Dolores as to what to do, is self-harming, and seems to think that Charlotte Hale, the real Charlotte Hale, is somehow trying to get back control of her body. She watches the video of the real Charlotte singing to her son over and over, and it visibly moves her. The scene when Charlotte rescues her son from the man with the dog is chilling, not just because of what seemed to have been going on there, but also because when Charlotte kills him, she says that she is remembering what it's like to be her. We're left to debate whether that's her remembering which host she is, or whether it really is Charlotte Hale remembering what it is to be like Charlotte Hale. She is a predator, after all. Are we seeing the start of a new phenomenon, that of a host in a body pretending to be a human, starting to become like that human? The second problem the Charlotte host is facing is how long she can realistically go without being caught. She seems a bit out of depth in the corporate world, but it's in her home life that the cracks are really starting to show. Her son says that he wants his old mummy back, and she clearly didn't know much of what was going on with her ex or her son or anything. Then there's Serac. He, it seems, has been playing a long game, using shell companies and microtransactions over 2 decades to buy a sizable chunk of Delos' shares without anyone realising. He wanted the data they had been collecting from all those billionaires. Understandable, that would have to be worth a lot. And he seems to have hedged his bets by trying to get hold of the data by another route as well. Charlotte had been playing a dangerous game working for Delos, but secretly acting as a mole for Serac. She had promised to get the data out of the park for him. If you remember, that's what she was trying to do all through Season 2, hunting down Peter Abernathy for the encryption key, then beaming the data out. She had failed, or at least had got some of the data out, but the encryption key was gone. Serac informs her that it is now in Dolores' mind. This places the action here presumably at after Maeve's action from the last episode. The simulation there was apparently designed to get the encryption key out of her, only for Serac to discover that she didn't have it. Dolores did. Okay, so to sum all of that up, human Charlotte had been working with Serac to steal the Delos data. They didn't get it all and are now looking for the encryption key. Serac thinks Dolores has it, hence him trying to get Maeve to go after Dolores. Host Charlotte is now caught up in this, but is increasingly starting to identify with human Charlotte rather than the host inside her. So we don't know which way she will go, carry on working for Dolores or fall in with Serac. Dolores' plan for Charlotte and Delos is for her to fight back against Serac's hostile takeover of the company, which will mean paying a visit to an old friend, presumably William, the man in black, who hasn't made an appearance yet this season, but still presumably owns a large chunk of the company. I suspect that encounter will be next week. Let's turn our attention onto Dolores now, then. We pick up on her story in the aftermath of the fight last episode. She's badly injured and Caleb understandably gets her into an ambulance. The first problem is that in this tech-reliant world, the paramedics are at the mercy of the ambulance computer. They can't treat her until the ambulance has figured out what is wrong. It can't do that because she isn't showing any usual human life signs. But all of this, the shootout last episode, the wrong readings in the ambulance and so on, clearly have put a red warning light on somewhere in the system. A job is put out through Rico that the ambulance must be stopped and Dolores captured. Incidentally, this is another sign that Rico isn't a standalone system for criminals, it's all connected. Caleb warns Dolores, she escapes, and he goes his own way. But that doesn't last long. Caleb can't resist seeing his mum one more time, gets caught and interrogated for information about where Dolores might be. At which point, Dolores saves him, and they team up. She lets him in on her plans. She wants a revolution, to cut the cord to the system, to show the world how it really is, how everyone's fates are predetermined. Caleb decides that he wants in. There are a few things to note here. First, this is yet again a human showing selfless care for a host. Caleb was apparently willing to die rather than tell people about Dolores. Humans being not all bad is definitely a theme of this season. Second, through all this we see how Dolores has access to the system now. She can find out everything about everyone, almost. She can't change it. Only Serac can do that, apparently, which is why she's after him, but she can analyse it or test it. Perhaps she's had this access for a while. Remember back in episode 1, one of Serac's people quizzed Liam Dempsey over someone testing the system without authorisation. That may well have been Dolores. This season is now starting to shape up, and we can see how all the characters are going to come together by the end. Dolores is trying to shut down the system or something like that, or so she says. Bernard is trying to stop her. Serac obviously also wants to stop her and is trying to send Maeve after her, but he is also trying to get hold of that elusive Delos data. The host inside Charlotte Hale is at the centre of all of it. Dolores thinks she's working for her. Serac thinks she's working for him. William, when he appears, will probably think she's trying to look after Delos' interest. Which way she decides to go may well be crucial. The name of this episode was The Absence of Field. It's a reference to a Mark Strand poem called Keeping Things Whole that starts, "In a field, I am the absence of field. This is always the case. Wherever I am what is missing." We are effectively told that Serac is like this, having wiped his digital footprint from the world. He is the black holes in the matrix of human information, the missing money, missing interactions, and so on. The absence of data where data should be. But Charlotte Hale is also the absence. The host Charlotte is the absence of the real Charlotte wherever she goes, especially in the eyes of her son. Remember, I want my old mummy back. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below, or join me on Sundays at 5 PM Eastern Time for my pre-show livestream. In Deep Geek, we'll be covering Season 3 of Westworld in full. The link to my Westworld Season 3 playlist is on the left of your screen and in the description below, so please click on that if you want more episode breakdowns, discussions and theory videos about this season. Or if you'd like to support In Deep Geek, or get access to some of the content I create exclusively for my patrons, please click on the link on the right of your screen. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you again soon.